Shalom, ladies. Welcome, everyone, to Coffee and Connection. This is, I believe, week 9. And here we are in our very special Chanukah edition. I got my menorah still lit behind me, Baruch Hashem. And I definitely want to talk about what Hanukkah means to us, what we as women can do to, in a feminine way, create Hanukkah in our homes, in some ways all the time, right? What is it that we're really trying to accomplish on this holiday? What are we tapping into? What are we learning? What are we supposed to be feeling? Well, I mean, there's plenty of things. So I won't say supposed to, like there's only one, but I'd like to talk about a few different ideas about Hanukkah and how it relates to our homes. Um, and before I do that, I'm just going to preface it with something that always, like, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. It's one of my favorite kind of like Dvar Torahs to collect, which is all those ideas that connect our homes to the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, it's just an amazing, amazing concept how our homes become these like mini temples. And I mean, I could list you like a ton of them. One thing that just really brings this home is the idea that I just heard it again this week, obviously for Hanukkah, that, when Aaron was upset because he didn't get to bring one of the korbanot during the initial inauguration of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle in the desert. And God said to him, don't worry, you don't get to bring one of these offerings, but you get to light the menorah. And yeah, he gets to light the menorah every day, but really it was even more amazing because God told him the avoda, the service of the temple, the service of the menorah will not end with the destruction of the temple like the korbanot have at this point. But when we light, this is Zoom, so I have to go the other way. When we light our Chanukiot in our homes, it's a continuation of the lighting of the menorah, right? Which is just telling us how we have every year at this time, and we'll come back to this idea, we get to bring the light of the Beis Hamikdash. We get to bring that amazing warmth and light and all that it represents into our home, right? And something that I remember as a kid, I think it's so funny now, but I remember as a kid, I always knew like in Israel, they keep things for one day, and in America, everywhere else, I'm not even from America, in Canada, we keep things for 2 days. So when I used to see like these pictures of the menorahs, and of the menorah from the Beis Hamikdash, and it had 7 branches, and then I'd see our Chanukiot that have 8 branches. So I thought in Israel, they keep Hanukkah for 7 days, and in Chutz La'aretz, we keep Hanukkah for 8 days. And it took me a few years to like realize that there are two different things, and yet they're not. They're not two different things. There's really a connection between the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash and the Chanukiot that we light in our homes. So what are we doing? What are we bringing in? What is so special about these lights, right? About this time period, about this week. And if I when I think about Hanukkah and what it means to me, I think back to one year when I was a kid. We used to go skiing. Okay, my family has like a home, like a summer home, but we didn't just use it in the summer, right? Some of you saw that when I was doing the With All Your Heart interviews. I was in quarantine in my parents' summer home, you could call it, but it wasn't just in the summer. My parents make sure still that they get use out of it all year. So we would go up for the 2 weeks that we had off in the winter, and we'd go skiing. And I remember one year coming home from skiing, and we were freezing, and we trudged in our ski boots, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Anyone who goes skiing knows what I'm talking about. And Shoshana, you know what I'm talking about. So we would come in and we'd start like stripping off our muffs and our goggles and our hats. Like, people ask me, you're from Canada, how can you be cold? And I'm like, because in Canada, if you go out, especially if you're going out for the day, like, you have a muff and then you have your goggles, and then you have your hat, and you have your gloves, and nothing like no skin can come in contact with the cold. So we'd come in, and I remember it must have been the first night of Hanukkah. Some years it would overlap, and my mother had decorated the whole house with these like Hanukkah decorations. And she always had, but I just remember especially then, like a warm meal waiting for us. And we lit the candles and we just sit and eat, like ate that warm. And I just remember that feeling of like we were, in the middle. It felt like in the middle of nowhere because we didn't know anyone and we didn't really have neighbors around us. And we knew we were like the only Jews, especially in that time, there weren't Jews around us. And we were like this little island of warmth in the cold. And for me, that is so much of what like Hanukkah is about. It's about like it's cold outside. Even now, you walk around. We just walked around a little bit in the old city tonight. You walk around and you can see in the window these lights, right? Okay, some people light by the doors, but you see also by the windows these lights, and you just imagine what's going on inside the home, right? And that picture of like, in the window when it's cold out, you can see into the window of a warm, loving home. And there's something to me that like has that feeling of it being not just the light in the dark, like when you see a window of light when you're outside in a dark, cold night, but the feeling of with that light is warmth and love and security. And to me, that is when I think of, what I want my home to be like. I want that feeling. I want warmth and light and love. And that seems to be what Hanukkah is about, right? We're having this holiday of lights and fire, right? Which is warmth in the middle of the coldest and darkest time of the year, right? It's literally the darkest nights of the darkest times of the year. And yet we are filling our home with the warmth of the candles, right? And how do we do that? How do we create a home of warmth and light? What does that mean? Right? What does it mean to you? So I'm going to invite you even to put in the comments when you think of a home that has like that feeling, that warm, loving lightness feeling. What is going on in that home? Or what are the feelings in that home? So thank you. I'm seeing some answers coming in. Respect, emotional safety, smiles. Yes, 100%. I agree with all of these. Connection. Thank you. Acknowledging someone comes in safe. No cell phone. So when you say no cell phone, right? What does that mean? It means, what does it mean to you when people aren't on their cell phones? Let's see. I know you're typing. True connection. Amazing. Amazing. And how do we accomplish that? How do we have connection? How do we have safety? How do we have feelings of happiness? And here we're saying acceptance and love. Beautiful, beautiful. So what I have found over the years, what I have found from my experiences, what I found from all my clients, what I found from speaking to so many women is that there are three vital ingredients to having a safe home. And safety is what's necessary for true connection, right? What all of that has in common is, as Chaya put in capital letters, safe, right? When we feel safe, then we can connect. Then that brings true connection. And in order to have safety and therefore connection, we need three very important ingredients. We need love, we need respect, and we need empathy. With those three in place, with those three ingredients, with those three essences, When we are being those three things and when we are creating those three things, that is how we can have safety, which then, yes, as Chai said, allows for vulnerability, which is what allows for connection. So how do we do that? How do we create how do we create love and respect and empathy? Well, the very first thing, right, is that we have to love and respect and have empathy for ourselves, right? That is how we start creating that environment, right? Because how I treat myself is going to set up how I'm going to treat others. It's going to set up how others treat me. It's going to get the ball rolling in terms of creating a whole different environment, right? So if I'm telling my kids or my husband over and over again, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to not get everything perfect. But in my head, I'm saying, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that you burned the challah. I cannot believe you didn't make dinner tonight. I can't believe the kids don't have clean socks today. What is wrong with you? Okay. They'll pick up on that. They'll hear me say that to myself. And that's going to kind of leak out on them because no matter how much I tell them that it's okay to make a mistake, if I don't think that it's okay for myself to make a mistake, then it's going to be really hard for me to actually allow others to do that. And so often, the way we talk to ourselves, we'll either hear ourselves talking that way to others, or without realizing it, we'll hear it reflected back to us and how they speak to us or how they speak to each other. And we'll be like, where did that come from? Are you in my head? How did you know to say that to each other? Right. But somehow they get it from us, right? Because we're speaking that way to ourselves. So, how do you love yourself? You know that you are doing your best and your best is awesome, right? You know that with everything that you do, it will not be perfect. And that is okay because perfection doesn't exist and nobody's perfect. I don't care how many perfect pictures they post on Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp. It doesn't matter. Nobody is perfect. Nobody has it all together all the time. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Okay. Everyone, anytime you get something perfect in one place, you are automatically going to be paying for it somewhere else. Okay. Perfection does not exist in this world. So when we expect ourselves to be perfect, we are going to end up paying for that in another area. Right? There is, it's I was having this discussion with somebody of the halacha. It's the same way. Like you're machmir in one place, you're almost always going to be makel somewhere else, right? You're stringent in one place, you're going to end up being lenient in a different halacha. And life is all about trying to find that balance and figuring out what's more important to me right now. What's going to be my focus, right? We talked about, I think it was last week, right? Who am I focusing on being today? Because I can't be everyone at the same time. So that's how we love ourselves. We know I am enough. I am doing my best, and my best is awesome. Not even when it's not perfect, because it won't ever be perfect, but like with the reality that it's not perfect. And how do I respect myself? By really believing that I matter and showing myself that I matter. My feelings matter, my desires matter, my boundaries matter, my self care matters. And no, that doesn't mean that we have to act on every single desire that we have. It doesn't mean that if I feel sad, I just can like take the day off. It doesn't mean that just because I don't know, I feel like it, I can yell at everyone. No, it doesn't mean that, but I respect it. I make space for it. I understand it. I give myself permission to feel those things and want those things, right? Because I matter. Just like if someone else was talking about how they feel, I would stop and listen, right? If somebody else told me that they didn't have time to sit down and eat breakfast, I would say, what? Like, of course you have to eat breakfast. but I don't give myself, but meanwhile, I may not be giving myself permission, right? And with that, I'm going to take some sips of my coffee because I also take some sips of coffee. So, one second. And me and my thirst and my coffee getting cold, that matters too, right? And I have empathy for myself. What does that mean? When things aren't the way I want them to be, when I'm acting a certain way, when I'm feeling something, when I'm doing something, again, instead of beating myself up or instead of um, thinking something's wrong with me, I get curious. I say, where's that coming from? What's going on? Why am I doing this? And I have understanding for myself. The more I can have empathy for myself, the more I can break out of those patterns that I don't like. As opposed to, we think that if we say, oh, that's okay, Chana, that you're like that then we'll get stuck in being like that. It's actually the opposite. If every time I yell at myself, I yell at my kids, right? Or if every time I don't get the laundry done, I say to I beat myself up for it. And I say, you suck, Hannah. What's wrong with you? You're the most horrible mother and woman ever, right? If I had every time I have to break a meeting with someone, right? Like I had to do today, and she was so amazing about it. If every time I had to do that, I beat myself up, what kind of coach are you? How horrible. Then, like, what am I going to do? I'm going to get defensive and I'm going to dig my heels in and do what we all do when we feel beat up, which is don't tell me what to do, love me for who I am. And I've now put myself in a box of being that horrible person. So I'll fit into that. But when I can get curious with it and say, what's going on? What's not working? How come that happened? What was going on in my head? What was I feeling? What was I thinking? What was the what are my was this were the circumstances? Now that I give it space, now I can figure out, is there something I need to shift? Is there something I need to work on? Is there a story or a fear that I need to work through? Right? I can't do that if I'm not loving, respecting, and empathizing with myself. Okay. And once we are giving so lovingly those things to ourselves, there's also the space to give that to others. When we love and respect and empathize with those around us, especially those in our home. Well, let me turn the mirror around for a minute. If everyone around you, if you felt loved and respected and people were curious instead of judgmental of you in your home, if every time you messed up, your husband would say, that's okay. I know you're busy, or I know you're doing your best. If they would say, you matter and I love you just the way you are, and they appreciated you, how would that make you feel? What would that do for you? What kind of culture would that create? And who would you be to them in return? And with that clarity, we can then turn the mirror back and make the decision to be that for others in our lives, right? To give that to others, knowing how amazing that feels. So that means that when someone wants to talk to us, let's say your husband comes in and he's telling you about his horrible day, or your kids are coming and they're complaining about their teachers, or someone's not listening, or someone's just, not paying attention to you, or they make a mistake, they put all your hanging wash in the dryer, or they don't take out the food when you told them to, or they don't take you out on a date even though you told them you want to go out, or whatever it is. Treating them with love would be standing for their greatness and saying, okay, I love you. I appreciate you. I understand. And this mistake that you have made, it's a mistake. It's something, but it's not everything. That's not who you are. You're not defined by this mistake. You're not defined by this issue or this thing about you that I don't like. And then when we can compartmentalize those negative things, then we also get to look at, let me get to know the rest of you. Sometimes we're so stuck in our negative views of people, right? We only see our husband as like the no good guy who doesn't wash the dishes, right? Or we only see our kids as like the whining and complaining and don't pick up their toys kids, right? Or our teenagers is just asking me for money and staying in their room and not talking to me. We don't get to see the rest of them. So, what I invite you to do is to compartmentalize. These are the things I don't like, or these are the things that bother me. And okay, we all have our stuff. And let me get to know the rest of you, right? Who are you? Connection and love is built on, love is built on those moments of connection where you get to understand someone, you get to know them, you ask them about their day, and you really listen to them, right? You you talk about something and you really get each other. Or you may not even get them, but you hear them and you try to get them. Or, you ask them, you understand, like, what is life like for you? What's your favorite food? What was the best part of your day? Like those moments where you really know someone. That's what love is built on, right? Are those moments of connection and appreciating that greatness and respecting someone is you matter. So if what I don't like what you have to say, I don't like the way you do it, that's okay. I don't try to change you because you are not me and I am not you. And different doesn't make it wrong, right? So if you're saying something and I don't like it, I don't have to try to convince you otherwise. Remember, I respect how I feel, so I don't need to get you to feel what I feel. I'm trying to understand what you feel. So let me understand you. Let me not tell you to just have a muna and suck it up because I wouldn't tell that to myself, right? That is so disrespectful, assuming that somebody, because they have negative feelings, it means they don't believe in God. Like, what do we say to people, right? So I'm listening. I want to understand you. Remember, safety. This is a safe space to be you, even when I don't like it. Right. I remember reading somewhere, and I think it's so important. It's something that I since then have been, and it can't just be lip service. We really have to mean it when we tell it to our kids and to anyone, right? Our husbands, ourselves. You can tell me anything, even if you know I won't like it. You can tell me anything, even if you know I won't like it. That is respect. That is connection, right? That's the safety to know that I am here for you and I love you, even when I don't like what you have to say, right? Even when you're being annoying or you're saying things I don't like, or we don't have the same political views or the same maybe religious views, or we don't think about things the same way, we don't think about money the same way. I still love you. And that brings us to number three, right? I still respect you. And that brings us to the third thing, which is I have empathy for you. So when we don't agree on something, rather than me assuming you're wrong, right, which would be disrespectful, or trying to change you and showing you that like you have to be a certain thing for me to love you. I want to understand you. I want to have empathy and curiosity about you because you matter to me, right? They all come together. So empathy for someone is when they are making me crazy or when they are different or even when they're being awesome. I want to understand who they are and see them for who they are, right? Get into like I want to, instead of judging you, I'm going to get curious about you. That is the essence of empathy. And that is really the space where people can feel safe. When I know that I can make a mistake, I know I can say something you won't like. I know I can be different, and you're still going to love me. You're still going to respect me. You're still going to want to have a connection with me. That is the essence of safety. That's what allows us to be vulnerable. It allows us to connect, right? Most of the time, vulnerability is scary. because it's vulnerable. And a lot of times we don't like hearing other people's vulnerabilities and they don't like hearing ours, right? Most of the stuff that's vulnerable is dark or it's different or it's scary or it's embarrassing, right? If it wasn't, it wouldn't be vulnerable, right? It's not vulnerable to say, I like chocolate ice cream, right? Unless you've been told that you're wrong for liking chocolate ice cream, right? It's not vulnerable to say, I like chocolate ice cream. It's vulnerable to explain why, let's say, chocolate ice cream um, is like a weird thing for you, right? Or like it's vulnerable to explain why you cry every time you watch a certain commercial. Like that's vulnerable because it's strange, right? Or it's vulnerable to discuss how you feel about your kids or telling your husband like what's going on inside your heart. That's vulnerable because there's a fear that he might not like it, that he might not get it. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be vulnerable. So to be vulnerable, which is the essence of like connection is based on is on the ability to be vulnerable with each other. That means we have to feel safe sharing those deep things about us. And what's so interesting is that often, um, and this is just practically how you can pull it all together and start taking steps to creating this in your home. Very often, when I explain this to people, they'll say, yeah, but people don't talk to me. My husband doesn't say anything to me. He doesn't share. All he talks about is politics, or all he does is talk about sports. Or I say, how was your day? And he says, okay. And like, that's it. So often what is happening is before and ask yourself if you've ever done this. When you don't know if you can be vulnerable with someone, you start by sharing things that aren't vulnerable. And you see, slowly you test, can I tell them this? What about this? What about that? And you go deeper and deeper and deeper to see if they can hold and make safe the space for vulnerability. Now, the problem is that very often women get frustrated with the non vulnerable step in that process. I don't care about politics. I don't care about what you had for lunch. I want you to tell me how you feel. But men don't want to talk about their feelings, especially before they feel safe. So they're going to test it with politics and lunch and cars and trees and sports. And they're going to wait to see, is she listening? Does she care? Is she going to argue with me? Is she going to tell me what she heard differently in a shiur, right? When I try to share a Dvar Torah, is she going to tell me how I'm wrong to be thinking that way? Is she going to say, what the heck are you talking about? I don't care about this. All of that. Now you might say, but I say that because he's not sharing vulnerably, but that's why he may not be sharing vulnerably, right? So what's very important is to what you can start to do from this moment, when you walk away from this call, is look for the times that someone is trying to share something with you, even if it seems like the silliest thing in the world, right? Like, oh, I can't find my pencil, or oh, I had a horrible day at work, whatever it is, and show them that you care. Show them that you're listening. Open up a space. Now, careful, because when you start to do that, they might bait you. Really? You're listening? What about if I tell you this? Are you sure it's safe? And they'll test you. So just be strong in that, right? That may happen. And I really invite you to try, like for the next at least what is it? 4 more nights, 4 days and beyond, to be diligent to create this space for connection, for warmth, for safety. I hear you. I love you. I respect you. I understand you, right? Or I'm looking to understand you, even if it's different than what I believe or what I think, even if I don't totally get it, even if it's different than me, making space for that connection and create that warmth, create that light, create that safety that Hanukkah represents to us, right? And that's, that's what God was showing us. He didn't need to give us that miracle of the oil. That was excessive. We didn't need that. We had just, besides like we had just won this huge war that was crazy that we were in the middle of winning this war. But we didn't need that miracle. We could have lit with not tahor oil if that's all we had. We could have waited 8 more days. We chose that date in the book of like we chose that date. Why? Like we could have waited, but he showed us, I'm here and I care. I see that you want to start today. I see that you want to use tahor oil. I want you to know that I'm with you. I care about you. I respect you. I love you. I understand where you're coming from. And he gave us this gift, this precious gift of light in the darkness that we get to take with us every year, and especially this year, right? Where it's for many people, it's dark, it's lonely, it's scary, it's hard. But we have these lights to remind us that we're not alone because we're all lighting them. We're all lighting them. We're all together in this journey. And please God, we'll all very soon witness the lighting of the ultimate menorah in the Beit HaMikdash, as we discussed. And then when we light in our homes, we'll know even more that we are bringing that light of the Beit HaMikdash into our homes as we continue that light. We bring that light into our homes, into each and every one of our homes. So I'm just going to look quickly at the questions to see if there's anything that I want to address right here. If not, I will save it for another call. Hold on one second. How do we show empathy to ourselves? And what if someone repeatedly does not follow through on their commitments? Those are excellent questions. Let me answer the first one. The second one I'll have to take. We could do a whole nother coffee and connection on that one. How do we show empathy to ourselves? Is by looking to understand ourselves instead of being judgmental of ourselves. So instead of judging myself, you suck, you're horrible, you're no good, you don't have it together, what's wrong with you, all those horrible things that we say to ourselves. Uh, looking to have empathy, looking to have understanding, not in a defensive way, not like, well, yeah, like, self-righteous kind of way. Of course, I couldn't make dinner. I was too busy with not like that, but like, oh, I was busy. Okay, so is there something I could do in the future that would make it easier for me to do that? Or does it not work and I need to have, some other system for how to have dinner ready? Or even just to be loving to myself, like, okay, I wasn't able to do it today, right? See how all of that is going to get me thinking and moving forward instead of staying in this, like, stuck, heavy, non safe place, even within my own head. Okay. And if they disappoint us, for now, I would just invite you to use the different tools that I shared, which is like compartmentalizing it, that may be their struggle and something that they deal with, and to look to have empathy for them in that, like, why is it like that? What's going on for them? Is there something in the way I'm asking them, right? Again, you're not judging yourself. You're trying to understand the situation, right? Am I giving them space to say no? All the different things that we can talk about when we're about asking for help. And then also looking to have a relationship with all of them and not just the part of them that doesn't follow through, because that's just one part of them, right? My husband says he tests vulnerability with me and I usually fail. I don't even know. I don't even know what happens. Great. Thank you for sharing that. And with everyone, Shoshana, I acknowledge you for that. Yeah, we don't even realize it. So I'd invite you to get really diligent with that, like really be mindful when he's sharing with you, how like try to like slow it down and ask yourself, how do I want to respond to him? Or what did I just hear myself saying? Right. And how may that be not creating a safe space for him to share? It could be little things like, I'm going to go get milk. And you say, "Why are you crazy? Why are you getting milk now?" Right? Or it might be that he says, "I think I'm going, I was, anything, anything he shares." And look at what is your reaction. And you could mirror it. How would I feel if someone reacted that way to me? And how do I want to react to him? How would I want someone to react to me in that situation? Okay. Okay. Um, Thank you. Okay, great. Yes, Mentes does. Okay, amazing. Okay, so ladies, thank you so much for joining me in the middle of Hanukkah. I just could not have coffee and connection over Hanukkah. It's so great to connect to all of you, and it's so good to see all of you. Hi, Shandel. Hi. So good to see you. And I really want to thank you all for being here. And I wish you all an amazing, amazing, amazing rest of Hanukkah. May we all be blessed with so much light and so much love and so much happiness and peace in our homes, in ourselves, for us and all of Klal Yisrael. And until next time, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Chanukah Sameach.